We saw the ratings. We saw the merchandise sales. We saw the attendance. But y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, unanimous Rookie of the Year. But what's even more impressive, she's first team WNBA. First.
As I'm sure you guys know, Caitlin Clark's rookie season is officially over after a heartbreaking playoff exit versus Connecticut Sun. Now, despite this playoff exit, this season was absolutely phenomenal start to finish. As of course, Clark led the league in assists, broke the assist record, was top 10 in scoring, and one of the most prolific outside shooters in the league.
Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Now, when discussing Clark's rookie season, one of the biggest takeaways, if not the biggest takeaway, is the Caitlin Clark effect. Not only for butts in seats, but eyeballs on televisions. As looking at the playoffs, Game 1 versus the Sun, a game that was 3 o'clock on a Sunday, the middle of NFL primetime. This game, despite all the obstacles, got 1.8 million viewers. In WNBA history, only 2 games ever have gotten more viewers. Those 2 games back in the late 1990s. And to give you guys more perspective, that 1.8 million number compared to the other games is a staggering figure that dwarfs all of them. Dream vs. Liberty, 410,000. Mercury vs. Lynx, barely cracked 400K. Aces vs. Storm at 461. Those 3 games combined, despite having Asia Wilson the MVP, 2-time champion, Brianna Stewart, last year's MVP, as well as Diana Taurasi, a legend, those games combined didn't surpass Clark's game versus the Sun.
See, nobody cares.
What this proves yet against the WNBA, they have phenomenal players and individual talents. They even have some really great teams. But those great teams, great players, for whatever reason, don't move the needle like Caitlin Clark. So in talking about Game 1 versus the Sun, 1.8 million viewers on a Sunday, that's a staggering figure. But now Game 2 played on a Tuesday and more of a prime time slot. This game for Clark got 2.5 million viewers. And to give you guys even more context to that number, how absurd it is, last year's finals that featured Wilson and Stewart, that finals on average had 720,000 viewers and peaked at 900K. That overall percentage of increase is above 3,000% with Clark playing versus Clark not playing. And again, we're comparing the biggest stage, the finals, versus a measly Game 2 of the second round. The Caitlin Clark effect for women's basketball is unlike anything we've ever seen. The only one-to-one comparison I really see is Dr. J in the 70s with the ABA. And Dr. J in that league was carrying them on a nightly basis. Games Dr. J played in, they would sell out, it'd be a great event, a great atmosphere. Games he wasn't playing in, empty stadiums, people didn't care, there was really no reason to go. The same thing with Clark. Yes, WNBA fans have a baseline level of interest, but when Clark plays, that level increases by tenfold. A lot of the past players, even current players, that fact being known, they really don't like it. As this league for the longest time, they were a very niche league with a very niche fan base. So having this rookie come in and get all the shine, all the attention, be the face of the league off the bat, that coming in only naturally is going to bring resentment and jealousy. And of course, all season long, we saw that start to finish.
Good turnover for rookies like Clark as she weaves her way inside.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on is the overall narrative that players of the past, they quote-unquote laid the groundwork and deserve their flowers. Now, this narrative, for a couple of reasons, I find kind of bizarre. The early pioneers of the WNBA, people like Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, even Lisa Leslie, the league at that point, it was rising, becoming successful, actually gaining interest. But around the mid-2000s, mid-2010s, this league stagnated and some years even decreased in viewership. As looking at their overall numbers, from 2008 to 2023, not one single game on TV cracked 1 million viewers. That's despite the backing of ESPN, ABC, ads, commercials, social media, NBA player shoutouts, despite all of that. This league for really 15 years was stagnant and couldn't crack the ceiling of 1 million viewers. Caitlin Clark in 1 year alone, in a 40-game season, cracked that mark 23 times.
Impressive. Very nice.
And one more point I do want to hammer home is that Clark, her Indiana Fever team, they are indeed must-see TV and the draw of the league. The rest of the league, they are gaining popularity, but the rate Clark has, it's not even close. Look at the overall numbers, the facts, the data. Clark games this year got an average of 1.178 million viewers. Other games, the non-Clark games, couldn't crack 400K on average. So look, two things can be true. Caitlin Clark, compared to contemporaries, is much more box office must-see TV, and people care much more about her than the actual league. But on the other hand, Caitlin Clark's effect gets more viewers than the entire league other teams on average. Are they close to Clark? Of course not. But are they growing? Yes. And when speaking about interest, the Caitlin Clark effect, it's not just viewership, it's also butts in seats and attendance in the arenas. As looking at some of the worst teams in the league, like the Mystics and Dream, when they played Clark versus when they didn't play Clark, their attendance numbers were staggeringly different. The Mystics versus Clark had to change arenas to a pro arena that fit 20,000. Without Clark on average, couldn't crack 5K. The Atlanta Dream, the exact same thing. Without Clark, in some rinky-dink arena, they couldn't crack 4,000 people. With Clark, had to change venues to go to State Farm Arena that fits nearly 18,000. And of course, Clark sold that game out in an instant.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And some might say I'm cherry-picking those numbers, looking at the Mystics and Dream. They're two of the worst teams in the league. So, with that being said, look at every team with Clark versus without. Even the best teams with Clark playing get more attendance on average than without Clark. And teams like Vegas, New York, established superstars, two great teams. Even their attendance increase goes by nearly 5,000 with Clark compared to without. This once again proves Caitlin Clark, despite being a rookie, not a veteran player, not the most MVPs, the most trophies or championships, despite all that, she's the face of the league and the biggest draw. And like I showed you guys previously, from 08 to 2023, this league saw very little, if any, growth. In the past 5 years, it was marginal at best. And still, for the most part, it is marginal growth outside of Caitlin Clark. So that right there is the end of the video. And one last thing I do want to say very quickly, now that Clark's out of the playoffs, the Golden Goose is gone. What are the ratings, the viewership numbers, the attendance going to be like minus Clark? Those numbers are going to be very, very telling of this league as a whole and how much farther it has to go as an entire league. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.